Come on in, come on in. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to another live edition of the Hawksbeat podcast. Wanted to come on real quick and do a live pod. If you're a listener to the Hawksbeat podcast, you know I usually do my podcast after the game, after Hawks games, or when news breaks. But I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to come on and talk with the people. I wanted to come on and talk with the people and find out how you're feeling with kind of the draft day trades. You know, if you're not a Hawks fan, you can chime in and let me know how you're feeling about your team and how they did today or how they didn't do. Some teams, they stood pat and they didn't make any moves. But I want to hear from the people, and I wanted to just come on and chat real quick, give you my thoughts of how I saw everything. So if you're listening on Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, what up? If you're watching on Periscope, Twitter, we're live on our Facebook page as well. And so what's up to all of y'all, man? What's up? It's been a while since I've gone live, man. I probably need to do it a little bit more often. And shout out to everybody in the chat. Hit me up in the chat. Let me know where you're from today. Let me know where you're watching from. How you feeling today? And my guy Michael Green, ATL, always shouting us out, man. My guy, what's up, my guy? He said yes and got off that $7.5 million for Rondo next year. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about that. So I wanted to kind of just look at the trade and just take a look at some of the teams that are kind of lumped together and see how that did. I got some John Collins thoughts that I want to give out to you guys. But again, thank you guys for checking us out. Shout out to all those in the chat. Again, this is Hawksbeat Podcast, the live edition of the podcast we're doing. So first things first, man, the news everybody has heard by now. It broke about 30 minutes before the trade deadline, about 2:30. I had the notification set today because Woj was dropping it, man. Woj and Shams, man, they get it going. Word comes out over the wire that the Atlanta Hawks trade Rajon Rondo for Lou Williams, and they get 2 second-round picks for Rajon Rondo. And I was like, wait a minute, like the Hawks are giving up 2 second-round picks? I had to go back and read it again. The Clippers gave up 2 second-round picks. So the Hawks not only got off Rondo's contract, they managed to get 2 second-round picks in just for cash money, you know? So it's one like, yo, again, shout out to DJ Yogi. Yeah, in cash. They gave us cash. That's pretty much like, you know, here's some cash in your pocket. Don't nobody want to turn that down. But I thought that was just amazing. Travis Slink, man. Travis Slink hasn't always hit it out the ballpark. But I will tell you this. If Travis makes a move and he doesn't feel like that move is in the best interest of the Atlanta Hawks, he will make another move. He will make another move, and he will make it right, man. He will make it right. So now you have, listen to this. Now you have four second-round picks in the 2023 draft. Now, I doubt you'll end up keeping all of those picks, knowing how the league is. But you have 4 second-round picks in the 2023 draft. I imagine you can now use those picks for capital, bargaining, if you want to move some other guys or do whatever the case may be. It just gives you a lot of leverage. So kudos to Travis Slink. You also pick up another pick in 2007. Obviously, here's the thing, and DJ Yogi brought up the good point I was just about to get to. He says, is Lou the backup point guard now, or will he bought out? So, according to Shams Charania, I always say his last name wrong. My apologies. Word on the street is that Lou is coming to play. So that is the early word. He's coming to play, and that is the early report. Now, that could change in the next 24 hours or so, but he's coming to play, which now brings into consideration, what do you do with the roster? What do you do with the rotations? And that's something Nate is going to have to figure out. Now, one thing about Lou Will is a combo guard. A combo guard, meaning that he can play the point guard, he can play the two guard. And actually, out in LA, over 50% of the time he was playing the point guard position. So Lou can play the point guard. And one thing about Lou excels in that pick and pop offense that the Hawks like to run. The pick and pop with John Collins, pick and pop with Clint Capella. Yeah, I mean, he excels in that type of thing. Now you have to be clear. We have to understand this. This isn't the same Lou Will that we got the first time he came through Atlanta. We got to understand that. He's a little bit more older in the tooth. The numbers are a little bit down from what they're used to. But still, you got the better player in this draft. I mean, in this deal. Make no mistake about it. You got the better player in this deal. Lou Will is a better player than Rondo. Now, Rondo's play has picked up since March, but in February and January, it was terrible. It was terrible. So you got a better player. You got $7.5 million of cap room back that you don't have to spend next year. And I think it's a win-win for the Hawks, man. I think it was a win-win for the Hawks. You do lose that veteran presence that Rondo brought. And I mean, hey, every draft deal comes with, the highs and lows. But if you tell me Lou Will over Rondo, I'm taking Lou Will every day. And even with his diminished capacity, and he's not the same like Lou Will that he was, but still a good ball player, good ball player. And I think I think they're going to, somebody asked me about the point guard position. I think they're still going to do point guard by committee, to be honest with you. I still think that you're still going to see Herter handle the ball a little bit. I think you might even see Bogey handle the ball a little bit. And I think I can't say that there's going to be unequivocally that he is going to be the backup point guard. I can't say that. I think Nate might just go with the hot hand. I think that one thing is clear is I know one thing. I know one person who is not going to be, and that's Brandon Goblin. No disrespect. I love BG, but man, he has fallen out of rotation with Coach Pierce and with Coach Nate. So it is clear that the Hawks are really, really searching for that backup position. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't know if he'll be the primary backup point guard. I think they'll go by committee. But he'll get his turn. He'll get his turn. He'll get his fair shot. And you know what you're going to get with Lou Will. You know what you're going to get with Lou Will. And I think this is really good for that second unit. As far as the rotation is concerned, I look at it like this. I think that we're getting to a point where, and tell me what you guys think about this. I think that we're getting to a point where you have to start looking at, okay, is Bogey ready to become a starter now? Right? Like, I mean, I love Kevin Herter. I love him to death. But Bogey is clearly the better player here. And he needs to be starting. So, I mean, if that knee's ready to go, and I think that that starting five, and once DeAndre Hunter gets where he needs to be, go ahead and move Tony Snell to the bench. Tony Snell, thank you for knocking down them threes, and he did yeoman's work by DeAndre Hunter. But Hunter's back. And when he gets off that minutes restriction, he needs to be a starter. So now you're going to start your games with Trey, with Bogey, Hunter, Collins, and Capella. That's your five. That's your five best players right there. Trey, Bogey, Hunter, Collins, and Capella. And now you have bona fide guys who have established themselves in that second unit. Gallinari, Snell, who's been a marksman all year. Kevin Herter, he did a good job, filling in. But you're not a starting two guard in this league. If if you want my opinion. Kevin Huerter's not a starting two guard in this league. Not yet. Not at this point in his career. He's a guy you want coming off your bench, knock down shots. He's just not that. He's not better than both. So now you got a second unit of Lou Will, Cam Reddish when he comes back, and you have your second Gallinari. I mean, your second unit is fine. Your second unit is fine. Shout out to my guy, one good one, checking us out from Periscope. He says, "Do you think the choice to move Rondo was strictly performance based?" I think so. I think a lot of things go into GM moves. I think when he bought him here, I think he realized that I kind of overpaid for him. Those first 2 months were rough. They were rough because Rondo and that second team were not good at all. It was not good at all. And I think financially it comes down to, man, that second year was just a doozy. That's why I thought it was going to be so hard to move him, because you're paying him 7.5. Like, no one wants to pay him 7.5 for next year because, like, yo, he's old. Like, he's damn near 40. You know, there's no disrespect to the brothers out there that are 40, but you in the league and you knocking on 40. That's a little long in the tooth. I tell people all the time, and the people, they get emotional when they have these conversations about players going and moving. You can't get emotional, man. It's a business. It's a business. At the end of the day, you got to look at the money. You got to look at the money. If anybody who's listened to my podcast understands, you have to look at the money. But overall, in the totality, I like the move for the Hawks, bringing Lou Will back. I think it will further establish that second unit. And I kind of like the move for the Clippers. They really need a point guard. Like, they really need a point guard. Like, Pat Bev, he's not it. He's not it, man. Pat Bev is not it. Reggie Williams, he's not it. They're just not it. And you see that. For as good as Paul George is, for as good as Kawhi Leonard is, they're not Mr. Do-It-All like LeBron James. LeBron would be like, yo, you want me to play a point? I play the point. You need me to get assists? I'm going to do that. You need me to get rebounds? I'll do that. You need me to sell popcorn? I'll do that. That's LeBron James. That's not Kawhi Leonard. That's not Paul George. Those aren't those type. They need a point guard that's going to put them in that situation. I think Rondo's going to do well there. No, nothing bad to say about Rondo, man. Nothing bad to say. As media, only got to speak to him a few times. You know, good guy. Loved being here. Did a good job. I read a report in the Athletic that the younger guys would come and they would talk to Rondo about how to break down film. They said they would come and talk to Rondo about Coach Pierce before Coach Pierce. So, he'll be missed. His veteran presence will be missed, but it's time to move on. And that's just how it is. That's the game, y'all. It's time to move on. And sometimes you stay a little bit, sometimes you stay a little longer. But at the end of the day, we're going to move on. Let's go to the chat and see what you guys are saying. Shout out to JLex212 checking us out on Twitter. Says Lou Will had good pick and roll chemistry with Montrez. He hopefully can do the same thing with JC and maybe Double O. Excellent point. Yeah. Pick and pop. That's his game. Mr. Legend 96 checking in from Periscope Twitter says the money they got off him can be used to re-sign Collins and another vet if need be. Yeah, that $7.5 million is nothing to sneeze at, man. That's bread back in your pocket. And I got one checking in again. It says, I think we should look into bringing in another backup center. I don't think that they're ready to sell on the backup center yet because you still have the Okongwu kid. Nathan Knight's coming in. You got Gallo that can play the 5. You got Collins that can play the 5. I think that if there's a move to be made, they were going to make it on the guard and on the wing position because it's going to take some time for Okongwu. And folks got to understand, Okongwu is, for all intents and purposes, he's a college sophomore. He's a college sophomore with no training camp. He had no summer league. And so his learning curve is in the game. Like his learning curve is in the game. So it's going to take him a while. I think he'll be fine in the long run. I think he'll be fine. The kid has all the tools. I think he'll be fine, but it's just going to take patience. So I don't think they're ready to punt on a Kongu and bring in another center, because if you bring in another center, that's going to take minutes away from a Kongu. And the one thing you don't want is minutes taken away from a Kongu, because you're not practicing. So how is he going to learn? He has to learn in the game. So you don't want to bring in another center to take those minutes away from a Kongu. One more chat, and then I'll go to my next point about John Collins. DJ Yogi checking in. He says, plus Snell's $12 million comes off the books this summer. Yeah. Snell's on an expiring contract. His money falls off the next year as well. So the $1 million question: what's next for John Collins? What's next for John Collins, our guy? So I've gotten a lot of questions about John Collins. What is the Hawks going to do? This, that, and the other. And tell you what, guys, I don't know. So all things are pointing that Travis wants to keep John Collins, but it hasn't been said at what price he wants to keep John Collins, right? So he said that, for all intents and purposes, he has given the intention that they are ready to match any offer. So that's all good, and but what if a team comes in and it's like, yo, we're gonna max him? Like, are you willing to do that? All right. So here's the thing. Everybody loves John Collins. Everybody wants John Collins, and a lot of people want John Collins to get his bread. Right? But here's the thing. Think 2 and 3 years down the road. Understand, this summer, Trey is going to be up, so you're going to have to pay Trey. Summer after that, DeAndre Hunter is going to be up, and Cam Reddish. I doubt Cam will command the amount that DeAndre Hunter will, but DeAndre Hunter is going to be up. You're going to have to pay him. So you got Collins coming up, you got Trey coming up, you have DeAndre Hunter coming up within the next 3 years. Somebody on this roster ain't going to be here. That's the reality. Somebody's not going to be here. Now you can hitch your wagon to John and Trey and say, guys like Bogey, guys like Gallo, guys like whoever are going to eventually fall by the wayside, but you cannot pay everybody. You can't. So if you're in favor of John staying here, who do you let go? Do you try to move Gallinari next year? Do you try to move Bogey's contract? Because you just cannot pay everybody. You can't pay everybody. So somebody has to go. Somebody has to go. Tony Snell's $12 million, Rondo's $7 million coming off the books next year is going to help. But again, you got Trey coming next year, and Trey's going to get max money. Like, he's going to get max money. And DeAndre, he's playing himself into a whole lot of money. So it's going to be interesting. What I think is probably going to happen, so here's the thing. There's only 3 options that can happen now with John Collins. There's only 3 options. One, you can sign and trade him. So a sign and trade works like basically you sign to a contract and you trade him away, and then you get some type of compensation back. So let's say they do a sign and trade with Orlando, and then they may get Orlando's protected 2nd round pick. That's how a sign and trade works. So it's not much compensation there, but you do end up getting a little something for them, but it's not much. If that's the case, you should have traded them. All right. So you got the sign and trade. You have the matching offer where a team can sign them to a contract, whatever that may be, whether it be 4 years, 115 or whatever. It could be that. And the Hawks would say, nah, we're going to match that. You match it, and then he's a Hawk again. Or he walks and you get nothing. Those are the only 3 options. Those are 3 options. I think that at the end of the day, I think that Travis is willing to match whatever a team And here's the thing, because I know Dallas is really wanting. I know Dallas really wants him. I know that Dallas. I know that who else was looking at it? Minnesota. I know that some of the teams with a lot of money really want John, and so they're willing to pay up. The only thing that nobody knows is how high is Travis willing to go. I think that he's willing to go up above that 90 million into the hundreds, but I don't think I don't think Travis will max him. Like whatever that max is, whether it's like 125, 114, whatever. So I think the sweet spot is somewhere between 100 and 110. Nobody knows. I don't know. I think that you should pay him as much as you can. See, the difference between fans and GMs are thinking 2 and 3 years down the road. They're thinking 2 and 3 years down the road. So, yes, you can pay John, and then you're going to have to max Trey, but then you're going to have to cut salary somewhere, like I said. And where do you cut the salary? Do you decide, okay, I'm just going to hitch my wagon to Trey and John and then let the chips fall where they may? That might be the move they might make. But that might cost you a DeAndre Hunter. It might cost you a Bogdanovich or Gallinari or somebody, because you simply can't pay anybody. You can't pay everybody. And I doubt that Tony Ressler will pay that luxury tax money if you're not contending. So, like, for now, you're a playoff team now. You're a playoff team. I think that right now you're probably between the 4 and 6. I think you're probably between the 4 and, like, right now you're standing at the 7th seed in the East. But I think when the dust settles, you'll probably be a 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed, because I really like the moves Miami made today, and I think that kind of catapults them above the Hawks. But it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. We're going to see exactly how they handle John Collins. A story came out this week. John Collins loves Atlanta. He wants to be here, so that's not in question. And the fans love John. How can you not love John Collins, man? He plays his heart out, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Let's go to the chat. Let's see what folks got to say. Michael Green, ATL, says, pay John Collins. Pay the man. DJ Yogi says if they don't pay him, they will lose Trey. Interesting. How close is Trey tied to John Collins as far as the future is concerned? Good point. Gilex212 says pay him. If you pay him, he becomes a much better asset on a bigger contract, even if you don't like the contract. Great point. There is another thing that you can do. You can pay him his money, right? You can pay him his money. And I want to stick right here in this comment real quick. You can pay him his money. And if something happens in the next year or two, you can still trade him. Or you say, you know what, it's not working out with Capella. He's getting a little injury prone, and that's what happens typically with big men. Once those injuries start coming with big men, you see it with Anthony Davis. I mean, it happened to Shaq. Like, big men, they don't get healthier, right? You can always trade them. Like, you can always trade them. There's always going to be a trade out there, right? So it's not like, oh, we're paying them and we're stuck with them for the next 5 years. You can trade them. You might get 50 cents on the dollar for them, but yeah, great point. Another person in the chat, last chat, he says, Double D Ward 74. The former two are older and with higher contracts. Exactly. So look, man, whenever it comes to how a team moves or what you think a team is going to do, Google their salary cap. I'm telling you, that's the easiest way to find out what a team may or may not be thinking. All right. The salaries, the money says a lot. Money says a lot. So it would be nice if John Collins stays. I hope he stays, but we'll see. It's business. It's nothing. It's never personal. Let's take a look at some of the other teams in the East, right? So I looked at this from a standpoint of, I didn't look at the Sixers, I didn't look at Brooklyn, and I didn't look at Milwaukee. That's the cream of the crop, right? In the East, that's the cream of the top. The cream of the crop. They're going to be 1, 2, and 3 in some form or fashion, right? Like, that's the top tier. The East is broken up into 3 tiers. Everybody else is in that second tier. Everybody else is in that second tier. That 4 to like 12 tier, that's where everybody else is. And then you got the Magic and you got Detroit. Just like at the bottom. Throw Washington, Cleveland kind of in there. I'm not gonna throw Toronto in there because they got a lot of fight. They're still champions. They still got Van Vliet. But I looked at it from a standpoint of Charlotte, Miami, New York, Atlanta, Boston. That's 4 through 8 right now. They're all jumbled up. So you got to look at seeing what these other teams did, right? So let's take a look real quickly and let me know in the chat. Was there a team out of all these teams that made a move that you thought, oh, that's a really good move? That's a really good move. So again, you got Charlotte, Miami, New York, Atlanta, Boston, and I also threw in Indiana and Charlotte. As far as Charlotte is concerned, they got Brad Wanamaker from Golden State. So in other words, they didn't really make no moves. So Charlotte's just going to roll with the guys they got. They kind of stayed put. As far as the Hawks are concerned, in relation to the Charlotte Hornets, Hornets beat them twice. I mean, you can say you're a better team than the Hornets, but you haven't proven it. Yes, we can say, that was the Lloyd Pierce Hawks. You can, but you still lost. So until you beat them, they're better than you. They're better than you. I mean, now, again, they are playing without LaMelo Ball, and that's going to be a huge loss. That's going to be a huge loss. So maybe you subtract LaMelo Ball, and maybe you are better than Charlotte. I don't know. We got to play them again. I think we play them again on I got to check and see, but I think we play them again, then we'll see. But the records are very similar. They hold the 4 seed right now. Atlanta's at the 7 seed. And I tell you what, man, that last game they played, Charlotte, LaMelo Ball went off. He had a triple-double, and every time Trey was matched up on LaMelo, he went for blood. LaMelo is going to be a fun player to watch, but Charlotte stays put. I think they'll be fine. Miami, let me tell you something. Miami did some work. They ship off Kelly Olynyk, Mo Harkless, and Avery Bradley. All right. In return, they got Victor Oladipo. They picked up Trevor Ariza. I think it was last week. Good veteran guy, veteran presence, defensive guy you'd like to have in your roster. And here's the kicker. Word on the street is that LaMarcus Aldridge just got bought out for $5 million for San Antonio. Word on the street is LaMarcus Aldridge is headed to South Beach. LaMarcus Aldridge is headed to South Beach. So now you got a nice combo of LaMarcus Aldridge and Bam Adebayo down there. And that's a lot of meat. That's a lot of meat down there, man. So I really like all of those moves for Miami. I really like those moves for Miami. Yeah, and they got your boy from the Kings too, man. They got your boy. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Jelsia. So yeah, I think out of all these teams, I think Miami gained the most. And I think that if there is one team that kind of catapulted from that mid group to maybe like the 4 seed, I would say it's Miami right now. You get Victor Oladipo, who's averaging 20 points. You got Lamar Aldridge, who's still got some juice in the tank. He's a vet. He'll give you that low post presence. Much all that stuff. And Miami didn't really even give up nothing. Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, Mo Harkless, they didn't really give up nothing. So, I think that Miami, I think they solidified themselves as the 4 seed. But only time will tell because they still got to win some ball games. The New York Knicks, they didn't really do anything. They gained Terrence Ferguson, athletic guy who plays defense, but he hasn't really even played much. They shipped away Austin Rivers. I think they stayed put. But the Knicks are having a good season. Yes, I said the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are having a good season. Julius Randle is having a whale of a year, man. The Knicks are tied with the Hawks, 22-22. They own the tiebreaker because of the Julius Randle game. Hawks fans will know what I mean when I say the Julius Randle game, because he cut you up for 40. He cut you up for 40. Yeah, good point. JLex 212 says, look, and they might get Drummond too. That's what I mean. I've heard Drummond's about to get bought out. I heard that was one of the destinations he might end up. If they get Drummond, that's going to be a big get for them. And you got to look at these teams because they're right there with them. As far as Boston is concerned, Boston is a game below the Hawks. They picked up Evan Fournier. Like, that's a big get. Fournier, and here's the thing. If you watch Hawk games over the years, Fournier is one of those guys that always eats on the Hawks. I don't know what it is, but he always eats on the Hawks, man. I think he can come into that second unit, give you some much improved scoring with him and Marcus Smart. And I think that's a big get. And, you gave away some picks and you gave away Jeff Teague. They said that Jeff Teague, he got traded to, he was in that deal. I think he was kind of like a throw-in at the last minute. And there was like, you don't even got to report to Orlando because they're probably going to buy you out. Might be time to call it a career, Jeff. No disrespect, but it might be time for you to call it a career, Jeff. And Jeff is one of my favorite guys to talk to, man. Good guy when he was here in Atlanta. I enjoyed talking to him. Real soft-spoken, real quiet. And he would be a monster in his day, man. You remember how Jeff was. Jeff got down with the get down. But I really like the move for Boston, man. So, Indiana, they don't make any moves on the deadline. And word came out this week that TJ Warren is going to be gone for the season. That's not good. I think the Hawks are a better team than the Pacers. So I'm not going to say you don't worry about them, but you don't worry about them. Last but not least, the Chicago Bulls. Listen, guys, the Chicago Bulls picked up your guy, Vujacic, from the Orlando. Listen, they picked up a NBA All-Star, man. That is big. And all you had to give up was Wendell Carter. No disrespect to Wendell Carter. He's a good player. His dad actually lives in my neighborhood. Like, I pull for Wendell Carter. But he's not a good basketball player. There's no disrespect. You gave away 2 first-rounders, but I like the Vujacic pick. And you got Daniel Theus from Boston. That really solidifies that front court. Now you can build around guys like Kobe White. You got guys like, you got guys that are there and are ready to roll, man. So it seems like they're starting to tool up a little bit. And here's the thing you always got to understand, and I try to do this in the offseason. Whenever you get better, chances are a lot of teams around you got better too. And I think that's the point I want to convey. Like, yeah, Lou Will's going to be good for our bench, for the Hawks bench. But some of these other teams did some retooling. So you're going to have to bring your hard hat. Nothing is given. And you saw how quickly you can go from a 4 seed to an 8 seed or a 7 seed. You only lost 2 games, right? You went on a 7 to 8 game win streak. You lost 2 games and then you slide 4 spots. Like, it's that jumbled up. So it's going to be interesting how the rest of this year shakes out. It's going to be interesting. Hawks are going to have to they're going to have to be a little bit more consistent. Can continue that defensive pressure that they've been picking up. They've been playing better defense as of late. You have to keep in mind this. The schedule has been soft. Like this, the winning streak was the softest part of their schedule. That's not me hating. That's just the reality. That was the softest part of your schedule. You got to win games that you're supposed to win. You're supposed to beat these Kings. Like, you got to win that one, So a little bit more consistency, but I think they'll get there because I like the fact that they're getting healthy. Chris Dunn is on the mend. It's going to be really big to see him come back. Hopefully we get Cam back in April. And I think that once you get DeAndre off this minutes restriction, I think they're going to be cooking with grease, man. So I definitely think they're a playoff team. That's not, the only question is, where will they be seated and what kind of run will they make? So let me hit the chat one more time as we wind things down. Says Vooch was that cheap. Travis should have made an offer. Now look, it wasn't that cheap. They gave up 2 first rounders. So Travis wasn't gonna come off no 2 first rounders for that. So he wasn't necessarily that cheap. But Vooch is a ball player, man. This them old Serbian dudes, man, like they ball, dog. Like they ball. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he works out in Chicago. Last, JLex212. Keep in mind, standing wise, the Bulls have the 8th hardest remaining schedule. That is true. Strength of schedule is big, and the Hawks actually have not so bad of a schedule. Like after you get off this road trip, schedule's going to kind of flatten out a little bit for the Hawks. But again, you can't have any letdowns. Letdowns are going to happen, but you want to kind of minimize the letdowns. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we covered everything, man. So if you're not following us on Twitter, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Hawksbeat. Make sure you check out the podcast that we do after each game. Thehawksbeat.com is our website. I appreciate everyone engaging in the chat. This was fun. I got to go live a little bit more often. I think that's about it, man. But like we say at the end of all of our podcasts, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. So if you don't know him, you need to find him and show him love, because that is all he is showing you. LOVE, love. We out, y'all. Peace.